somebody's going to be scanning that works and they're going to see Starlink sucks. If you go on their website and Starlink is not available everywhere. Anybody else that tells you that is also lying to you. It just never worked out, right? Like, it was always just frustrating. How do I get internet in our RV? It's actually the most popular question we get all the time.
Hey guys, we are really excited to bring this video to you today because this is one of Izzy's favorite types of videos to do because he gets to geek out. So hashtag geek alert, here we go.
So this video is going to be talking about something that's really important for RVers, especially for us, and that has changed a lot. We've been RVing since 2018, and it wasn't as important to us, but in 2023 and going forward, it's really a deal breaker. It's actually the most popular question we get all the time. How do I get internet in our RV? And as the RV industry continues to move forward, RV internet is becoming a standard as RVers become younger. It's just what it is, right? We live in a connected world. So let's get right into it, guys. We're going to start from the most simplest free options to really the more expensive and more custom options, which is what we have on our motorhome. So let's talk about free, because I like free and I'm sure you like free, although it's not really free. The most simplest way to get RV internet on your RV is going to be free Wi-Fi. Now that could be at a public location like a Starbucks if you're close by there, but more than likely it's going to be on wherever campground you're at if they have Wi-Fi access to allow people to use it. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages of this. Number one advantage is that it's free, although you're paying to be at that RV park, and of course that's included in the price, but a lot of times it's not an additional charge, although some parks do have additional charges. We've seen that. For the most part, it's free. Now, also for the most part, although it's becoming more common for high-speed internet, I know a lot of the newer resorts, they do offer high-speed internet, and that's a great thing. I know KOA is trying to, outfit all their campgrounds with that, but most of the time, the Wi-Fi is pretty slow, especially during peak hours, afternoon, night, when everybody's out and about, everybody's doing this, it slows down a lot. The second thing that I don't like is that you're on a public Wi-Fi network, and those are often not very secured. Certainly wouldn't be doing banking or have any kind of sensitive information over a public Wi-Fi network, so that's not something we're really hot on. We tried the public Wi-Fi thing when we first started RVing. It just never worked out, right? Like, it was always just frustrating. It never really worked out.
Speed at all.
It was usually terrible. Now, again, things are getting better, but if you really do rely on internet, it's nice to have the Wi-Fi there, but you can't rely on it. You have to bring over your own internet connection. So the second most common option is right here, right? Your smartphone. Most people today have a smartphone. There are people still out there with the flip phones. If you have a flip phone, you're probably not watching this video because it doesn't really matter to you, but most people have a smartphone. You can get on the internet here. Almost all the plans out there are going to have some kind of data. Most of them are unlimited now if you use it on the phone. There's also a hotspot feature on most modern smartphones in which you turn on through software, you turn on a hotspot feature. This will put out a signal in the immediate area, and you'll be able to connect to your phone from other devices, whether that's a TV, a computer, and then you can use the data of your cellular plan or the data plan on your cellular, and you can use it as a mobile hotspot. Why is this the simplest way? Well, you're already paying for a plan. You always have your cell phone, and if it's something that you're not using a lot of hotspot data, you just want to send email, pictures, whatever, you're not streaming all the time, it's a great option, guys. There's no need to spend money on the equipment. The downside is that most hotspot plans, for example, you might not understand what that means. We have unlimited data on here if we use it on the cell phone. As soon as I turn the hotspot on, you're often limited. That can be 15 gigs of data. It could be 100. It could be 200, whatever you pay for. But there's going to be a limit. So if you're a heavy user of data outside your phone, that could be an issue. Getting a little more advanced, a higher step up, they also have dedicated hotspots. Now, we don't have a dedicated hotspot, but you'll hear like the Verizon MiFi. There's all different ones out there, and that's usually through one of the three big carriers, T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon. They'll have like their branded hotspot, right? And it looks almost like a phone. It just doesn't have a screen, or it might have like a little LCD screen, but you can't make calls from it. It's just dedicated to connect to and give you access for internet data. Big advantages is that you always have it with you. They're tiny little things. Sometimes they run on batteries. Sometimes they could be plugged in. They usually work pretty well. But again, the disadvantage, couple disadvantages, they're usually cheaper equipment regarding the hardware. And we'll talk about hardware, software, as well as area cellular connection, network connections. That's really important as you get more into this. And also, they're usually pretty expensive and they're limited on the data. So most of those hotspot plans, you know, that you have 50 gigs, 100 gigs, 200 gigs, there's all different ones out there. Now, there are certain companies out there, I know FMCA has like a hotspot plan that's unlimited. I don't know how much it costs anymore because they keep changing prices on them. And that's good, again, if you are just a part-time user and you're not really, it's not really that important to you. A lot of people use that and it works fine for them. One other disadvantage of cellular plans, whether that's through your phone, a hotspot, a dedicated router like we're going to talk about later, the data and the plan is only as good as the service in your area, the cellular service. Companies out there, there's people out there, they try to market themselves as far as like an alternative to Starlink. And we're going to talk about Starlink very soon. Starlink is very different. If you don't have a cellular connection, if you have 0 bars, you will get 0 data. If anybody's telling you otherwise, they're lying to you. Now let's move into the next thing, which is going to be satellite. Now, satellite used to be a really expensive thing. There was companies out there that you can get satellite internet. It would be pretty slow and quite expensive. However, SpaceX with Elon Musk and Starlink over, I believe, the last 3 years or so, they have brought low orbit satellite to the masses, and it's really a great thing. It essentially gives you the ability to have internet almost anywhere, and I say almost anywhere because anybody else that tells you that is also lying to you. Actually, on the SpaceX, if you go on their website on Starlink, it makes it very clear it's not available everywhere. Now, if you're not lost yet, just please stay with us. Now, the Starlink, I'm just going to focus on Starlink because that is the most popular one now. Starlink has several components. You have the hardware, which is the actual dish, the router, and then you have the software, which is what software is built into the router, as well as software that allows this whole system to work. Now, the actual hardware itself, it's stationary. That's specifically for RVs, which means that you can only use the Starlink when you're not moving. The equipment itself is $599. The service is $150 a month. And now they promise speeds of like 5 megs up to 200. Some people have great speed with them, some don't, and some have complained about service dropping out. We personally don't have Starlink. We have friends that do. They're not big fans of it. We don't have Starlink, not to say that it's a bad service. It's just not a service that we would find ourselves using. And the reason why I say that is because where we camp, we most often have cellular signal. Now, in 2 or 3 years, if we're going to be spending significant amounts of time in areas where there's no cellular signal, Starlink is a great option. The second thing you should know about Starlink is that they offer different types of equipment. So I just talked about the stationary, $599. If you're moving down the road, it's not going to work. For that, you will need the hardware, the in-motion hardware. That is $2,500. That is different hardware than the stationary hardware. So if it's really important to you and you need it all the time and you are just using Starlink, you would have to spend that extra money. Now, some other things you should know about Starlink is that they have several plans. They have residential plans. They have the roaming plan. The roaming is what is for RVers. A big thing, an advantage of it is that you can pay month to month and you can pause your service. A big disadvantage is that you are not priority as far as connection, right? So residential will always have priority. So if there is a time when there's a lot of congestion on their networks, you are going to be throttled down. And what I mean by throttle, it means that your speed is going to be slower. There's also been talk about capping the amount of data you can use. I believe residential, they're talking about 1 terabyte. I am not quite sure. In the comments below, let us know, guys, if that has come over to the roaming. But 1 terabyte of data per month, and then anything after that, if you use more, you're going to have to pay per gig. Now let's talk about things that we have used, and we have used quite a few different options. You know, we've been RVing since 2018, so going through those times, we have learned things that work, certain things that don't work. What I will tell you is that when we just recently found this out, again, there are third-party providers out there. What are third-party providers? You have 3 major cellular providers in the United States. It is T-Mobile, it is AT&T, and it is Verizon. Anything outside of that, Visible Wireless, Mint Mobile, those are subsidiaries companies. Now, there are quite a few third-party providers out there. A couple examples, OTR, there's one called Blazing Hog, there's another one called Connect, and there's a ton of them. Nomad Internet's a big one. If you've been watching YouTube, you know Nomad Internet, there's been some issues with them. And we've used third-party providers in the past, including Nomad. What we have found is that often they'll work for a while, and then all of a sudden they stop working. If you want that guaranteed internet, guys, it's best probably to go through the actual provider, whether it's a prepaid plan or something like that. That is what we have chosen to do. We're on AT&T FirstNet, but we have a setup that we've been using for 2 years. Not the same router, but the same setup from the same storefront in New York. So let's talk about our setup, guys. Now, in that Nomad video, we had mentioned Nomad was going to be our secondary internet because it was on the Verizon network. And I just told you we're on AT&T FirstNet. And we explained in there it's going to be our secondary because we primarily use the AT&T because we know it's a corporate account regarding it's direct through AT&T and that it's going to be reliable, and we've used it for a while and we have been using it for a year. So let's talk about exactly what we have. Now, before we get into exactly what we have, I want to tell you why we have a dedicated router for our motorhome. We are heavy internet users both at home and on the road. With the advantages of having a dedicated router on the motorhome is quite a lot. So we have multiple cameras on our motorhome. You can't do that if you're using hotspot on your cell phone, because as soon as you leave the area, you can't connect to anything. We have a Ring camera, we have Nest cameras, we have smart, if you look over here, this is our Govee. It's a temperature monitor. So if we bring our pets with us, we have one of these in here. We have one in the basement where we can monitor the temperature. If it's cold out, we know we need to put the heat on so nothing freezes down below. We also stream everything. So we have smart television. So needless to say, in addition to the work we do as content creators, internet is extremely important to us, and we need a stable connection with good hardware that's dedicated to this motorhome. So currently what we're using, there is a storefront, a company out of Chester, New York. They have a website, Chester Tech Repairs, and on there they have multiple different types of routers and setups either for your home or for your RV to get internet. Now this is the current one that we have here, guys. All right, this is the router that we have. Prior to having this router, we had this router over here. Both have worked wonderfully, but you know me, I like the latest and greatest, right?
It looks like we're trying to contact outer space.
Yeah, and regarding technology, technology moves very quickly. So 1 year in technology is like, 10 years in like the car industry. So if you have something that's 5 years old, as far as like a computer or something, it is really old. It's
ancient.
Probably really outdated. Yeah, pretty much ancient. So I like to every year just I'll contact them and say, hey, listen, what do you have new? What's gonna help us improve speeds? And what's crazy is when we first started in 2018 on our Jayco, I was happy to get like 10 meg download, right? Like that was I was super happy with that. Now I'm like really annoyed if we're not getting 100. This guy we're getting speeds over 200 down, 20 up. Again, it depends on the carrier and depends where you're at. But let's talk about software, hardware, and network. So let's talk about the hardware. This is hardware, guys, right? Hardware, it's actual equipment. You also have software in here, so they have to work together. The software is kind of like what tells the hardware what to do, in really simple words. They have to work together in a symphony. Now, you can have the best software and hardware in the world. If you don't have a good data connection, if you're not near a cellular antenna, it's not gonna work well, right? If you don't have a signal out there. So for example, where we live, this works fine. This is AT&T. I shouldn't say it's at its best, but we have like 2 bars. If I was to put a Verizon SIM card in here, this would not work. Verizon does not work in our area just because of the topography, the distance to the cellular towers. T-Mobile doesn't work here either. So that's why it's really important, depending on how much you're going to use your internet, how important it is to you. You may have to have data plans from different carriers because you may be in an area where AT&T doesn't work, but T-Mobile's really good, or T-Mobile doesn't work, but AT&T's really good. And if it's critical to you, you're going to need to have different SIM cards. And yes, that's going to cost more money, but that's just kind of just how it is. Or you might need to have Starlink. You might need to have a combination of different things. So let's get into the actual hardware itself. So the model of this router, it's the RM520NGL. I'm just going to get some quick specs. It has a Qualcomm modem in here. It's a Cat19. So theoretically, I think you're pushing me back.
Pocket protector time.
Theoretically, this has a download capability of over 1 gig, which I can say theoretically because it all depends on the network you're on, right? We're not at that point yet. This is 4G and 5G capable. Wi-Fi 6, guys, right? So these are your Wi-Fi antennas. These are your cellular antennas. So when I say Wi-Fi 6, that's going to be how this projects signal out. The cellular is how it takes it in, this how it puts it out. To keep it simple, this is getting cellular data from the towers. This is taking that data and putting it out to your device. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Wi-Fi 6 is going to give you better speeds it's all going to give you greater distance, right? So as things get better, like right now when this is parked in our driveway, in our bedroom, I'm picking this up. Now, granted, it's like 2 bars, but I'm still getting good speed. It's penetrating the RV, it's penetrating our walls inside. So you want the Wi-Fi 6. A couple other things to note on here, guys. It's very simple. You have your connections, your LAN connections. You have 2, your WAN connections. This is a pretty heavy duty unit. Your SIM card goes right in here. And then you can easily, you just log into it by putting in the IP address, which is provided. You can log into it, very user-friendly interface, and you can go in, you can change those passwords, you can change the name of your network, you can change the security of it. This one's actually named Starlink Sucks. And the reason, I don't think Starlink sucks, but I like to mess with people. So I know when we're at a campground, somebody's gonna be scanning networks and they're gonna see Starlink Sucks and it might give them a chuckle.
So for those of you that don't know, and we know this very well, and Jason knows this really well, Izzy is a prankster. As a child, he tortured his father, who is a great guy.
Yeah,
but
well,
like
it keeps him young.
Tortured, like constant pranks. I mean, so this is what we have to deal with.
Right. So if you're at a RV park and you see Starlink Sucks, it'd be a good possibility that might be us somewhere in the area. One other thing I kind of want to point out, guys, and these, remember I told you these are cellular antennas. These are just your paddle antennas. This will come with the unit if you purchase it. But what I like about this is I'm going to unscrew them. You want to look for something like this. These are external antenna ports, right? No matter what router you get, you probably want an external antenna ports, because what it's going to allow you to do is to hook up an external antenna. We have a roof-mounted antenna, is a panorama antenna. We've had it for 2 years. Really high quality, very similar to what's used on like emergency services vehicles. It works really well. An external antenna put it high up on the roof, it's gonna go higher, it's gonna reach out further. We also have our wiring Yagi antennas that kind of like point. Like if we're in an area where you get 1 bar, again, remember I said, if there's no signal, it doesn't matter what you do. But if you're in an area where the tower is kind of far away, using those pointed Yagi antennas helps reach out further and might bring you from 1 bar to 3 bars. We've seen that happen where we couldn't get anything and then we just put that antenna up and we're getting some good speeds. So this is 4x4 MIMO capable. We do have that 4x4 panorama antenna. I was able to use, this came satellite prepped. We purposely never got satellite because we think that's old technology. But what that allowed was there was already a plate up there with conduit and an area to run cabling, which is, this is the cabling from that panorama antenna that's mounted up top, so I didn't have to drill anything, I just had to run cabling. And then these cables, the SMA cables, are just going to screw in the back. I'll boot it up and then I'll talk about some speeds and how we use this. So I just plugged this in. Immediately you will see all the lights light up. This 5G will be red, okay? Now it's going to take probably a minute, minute and a half to boot up. You already see you'll have the power light that goes on. It's going to go through a cycle. We are in a 4G area, guys, so once this 4th light is not going to light up. So you have the power light, which shows that it's powered. Then you have your Wi-Fi light. Once the Wi-Fi 6 is on and running, that will light up. Then depending on what network you're on, like I told you, we're on AT&T, but we only have 4G in this area, so only the 4G will light up. Once that lights up, then we know we're good to go. We should have data connection. If we were in an area like we were in Arlington, Virginia, where they had 5G, then that 5G would light up. You can see the Wi-Fi is up now, and then shortly after you will have the 4G. Now I do want to point out something in particular with this router. Just because that 5G is in blue up there, that doesn't really mean squat. It's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of like, it looks fancy that they make things light up. You really have to have that 5G light on right here to have actual 5G. And the reality is 5G is not widely available. It is becoming more available, but most places, especially campgrounds, you're probably not going to have it. So I just want to show you really quick, you know, we talked about why we have a dedicated router. So that router kicked on, which kicked on the Nest camera, and then MJ just got an alert that there's somebody in their motorhome, and it's me. So
creepy.
If you ever come into our motorhome, you're being watched.
Smile, you're on candid camera.
You're on candid camera. So I told you we have AT&T FirstNet. So the reason why we're using this router is, there's a lot of good routers out there. Wave and Cradlepoint are 2 that are really good, but they do have some limits. One of those limits is that you can't use kind of any data plan, and something like this you can. So whether it's a unlimited cellular data plan, an unlimited hotspot, tablet, you can use it on here, and you can use it from all major carriers and still get unlimited internet, which is really nice. Verizon, AT&T, of course, T-Mobile, and then any of the subsidiaries from there. So whether that's like the Walmart prepaid plan or a Visible Wireless or Mint Mobile or all the other ones that are out there, you can pop it in here and it will work. The other thing we really like about this router and the other routers that we've been using is that the place we get it from, they're right in Chester, New York. Actually, MJ has come up with me. She like hates going up there because it's me and the owner
I
just
sit
talk
and
like technology.
twiddle my
and she-
thumbs.
But it's an actual storefront. They do phone repairs, and this is a big thing for them. The guy, the owner up there, he's also always available, right? Either through TeamViewer or text or whatever. I've been on the phone with him sometimes troubleshooting. He gets things done. They're a good resource, and we've been using them now for over a year. So we like storefronts. They answer the phone. I would encourage you, if it's something you're interested, go on their website, contact them, tell them we sent you. Now, if you're not new to our channel, we've had many people reach out to us to ask us about the previous router we had in here. This is like the third iteration of it. And we've emailed them and said, contact these guys directly. And a lot of people have been satisfied with it. If you're one of those people, put it in the comments below. But we know who this person is, and we know what kind of service that they provide and the equipment that they provide. And they're not a third-party provider. They're not providing you with data. They're providing you with the equipment. You bring your own data over. The third-party providers, a lot of them you just get cut off. This one, you're bringing your own data over. You're bringing it from one of the cell providers. So it's just equipment. We do have a discount code, guys. It's $25 off the purchase of a router. They have these types of routers. If you don't need something so fancy, they have smaller ones. They have dual SIM ones. They have something to meet your budget. I believe the price on this one is $595. However, if that doesn't fit your budget, they have other routers out there. It's probably not gonna be Cat 19. It's something that's going to fit your budget. So you may be asking yourself, what kind of speeds do you get with this? Well, I want you to see here, we have 1 to 2 bars. It's kind of going in and out. Of course, we have the full Wi-Fi. We're connected because we're right here. I'm going to do a live speed test for you guys. Again, Verizon does not work here. T-Mobile does not work here. AT&T is okay here. Well, we're back to 1 bar now. I'm going to hit it live so people don't say I'm scamming here. You can see we're connected. AT&T Internet on iPhone 13 Pro. I'm going to connect and show you live what we're getting with 1 bar roof-mounted antenna on AT&T FirstNet. So we're getting probably around 50 to 60 down. The upload speed suffers because we don't have really good signal here. But this is more than sufficient to download. You can see the upload speed is really suffering here. Now, if we connected to our Yagi antenna, this speed would go up. But this is fine. And again, we're in an area where we have terrible signal. Now, regarding real-world use, I have some examples on here, some real-world use, and I want to show you guys. On April 8th, 2023, we were driving. This was mobile moving through Arlington, Virginia. I did a speed test because I like to test these things out on the road. We got 268 down, 17.4 up, and this was on this system. And then we did another speed test in another area in Virginia, 139 down, 17.2 up. This is more of the norm. The 268, it was obviously in a 5G area. The norm is 80, 120, kind of you're in the 4G area and you have full bars. That's what you can expect to get from something like this, AT&T. Now, I know when we were up at the store, he popped a T-Mobile SIM card in here, and that's a strong T-Mobile area. He's getting almost 300 down. Again, it all depends on the area that you're in. We're going to put the link below to the Chester Tech Repair website. We'll also put our discount code, which is if you use the discount code EndlessRVing, you get $25 off the router purchase.
So I hope Izzy answered some of your questions. That was a lot of information and really good. You have a very good way of explaining that. I could not do that.
You're a teacher.
Yeah, but I'm not a geek. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. You can also email us. We get emails probably almost daily about people asking about our internet setup, and we're happy to answer them.
Also, like I said, we're going to put the link to Chester Tech Repair. We'll put their website there. You can reach out to them, and he will be more than happy to answer your question. And he'll be able to tell you the other equipment they have, because I only know what we have.
Right,
I don't know the other stuff he has. He's way more into it than I am. I just like
Which is
things
hard to imagine.
set up. So yeah, put in the comments below, guys. If RV internet really important to you, it is to us. To the left of us, if you like videos like this, RV Essential Upgrades, also our RV Newbies playlist. And for myself and MJ, it's a journey of a lifetime, and we'll see you on the road.